I'm gonna show you step by step how to create beautiful PDFs with line items just like this. Stay with me. All right, so we're gonna jump straight into showing you step by step how to build this invoice in Documint. If you already have Documint skills or you know how to use it, you can kind of skip ahead using the chapters below in YouTube to go to the Coda specific part, but we're gonna do that in two parts: Documint, and then how to configure Coda, and then how to put those two together. So let's just look step by step at Documint first. So what we're gonna try to do is recreate this invoice, and we need to start thinking about this in boxes, right? So there's boxes, and inside of those boxes or containers, there are more boxes. So if we just look here first, you'll see, I kind of see this as a large box. And inside of that large box, there are three boxes: 1, 2, 3. So in order to make that, let's go ahead and we're gonna come in Documint and we're gonna add, notice it's a box with 2 boxes in it. So I'm gonna grab these columns in there, and inside of the other box, we're gonna grab a text and we're gonna grab another text. So now I have 2 boxes here and 1 box here. This box needs to be an image, so I'll grab and put an image over here. You can add and upload images by yourself. Once you do though, you'll have them all available. I'm just gonna put this one in here. Let's click that. You'll notice that now I have that. All right, now that I have these boxes here, I can come in here and I can just start typing invoice. Once that's done, I can click on the whole box, and the formattings is on this side. So here I can create this size to be bigger, you know, because I want that to be large, and we'll make it bold, and we can even come here and give it background color. No, we don't want a background color. We want a 144 F7D color. Gives it a nice pretty blue. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna be able to, if you see in this part over here, on our PDF, you'll see that invoice number, date of issue, and date due. These are obviously things that are gonna change. So I'm gonna show you how to insert with Documint what we call variables, so that these actually change per invoice and you never have to do anything manually. So what I'm gonna do first, I'm just gonna try invoice number, right? And then from there, I am going to do a double squiggly bracket, double squiggly, and then inside of that, I'm gonna put any sort of variable I want. I'm gonna make it easy to remember. So I'm gonna do INV_NUM. That stands for invoice number. Zoom in on that real fast. Should be able to see that, right? So there I have invoice number with inv number. What I can do now is I'm gonna just come out a little bit so we can see it a bit better. I can do that again for, I'll say, date of issue. And I'm gonna say Documint has a special version, thing called date, where it'll automatically input it. So I'm gonna use the word date, and then I'm going to say date due, and then I'm gonna say double squiggly bracket, and we're gonna say due. These again are arbitrary. I could call this banana if I want, but obviously that's not helpful for later. So that's all I'm gonna put there, and we'll again work with these in Coda later. You'll notice that as I type these though, these are also gonna show up over here. So notice as I'm in the data layer, the numbers or the pieces of variables that I input here are gonna eventually show up here, which is great. That's exactly what we want. All right, so we've done our very first box, right? We had a box with 2 boxes on this side and a box here. Our next box, as I look at my PDF, looks like this, right? It's a single box that has 2 boxes in it. So I'm gonna go back to add. It's gonna look like that. Put it right under there. Now, these are just, you have to drop an element here. So again, what am I gonna put? I'm gonna put a text, and I'm gonna put a text. So here we go. I'm gonna put my own company name. That's Simplidocs. That's our consulting agency. And then we're gonna put in, you know, our address. Because these don't have to variables, they don't change, I can hard code them in. Stanley Lane and Bakersfield, etc. You get it, United States. What I'm gonna do over here though is I'm gonna add the client details. This is gonna be a bit different because these are gonna change. So I'm gonna show you something special to do here that's a little bit different than before. So first I'm gonna just say client details. And under that, I'm gonna put a double squiggly bracket, and I'm gonna say client underscore details. But I'm actually going to want this to support line breaks because I'm going to want to come in as the name, an email, and more information in order to support line breaks or even formatting coming over from Coda. So if you have something in Coda that is bold or italic and you want that to come over, what you're going to do is put a money sign, MD, before the variable. What that does, MD stands for markdown. Markdown is a specific type of language that just allows us to input formatting and things like that. So notice that when I do over here, it doesn't, the variable is still client details. So this whole money sign thing is just kind of adding additional information to the variable, but the variable is still just client details. All right, we're doing really good. We're cruising along. So we've got a couple more pieces to do and then we're gonna be done. We've got another, let's go ahead and add we can just add a text below. This is going to be our total, USD due on, and notice that I'm reusing here. I said total USD due. So total is a new variable, but due is the same one up here. So I can reuse variables multiple times throughout here. And now you'll see my variables are continuing to grow. Of course, I can make this way bigger as I did. I can also add padding to kind of make it look a bit better, right? Like if I want a little extra padding here and a little extra padding here. So you're gonna kind of play with this to make it look exactly like you want. And then I had under that, I had a text, you know, I just said invoice payable via blah, blah, blah. Under there, what we're gonna do is, this is where we get to line items, and this is the most important piece. So if you're looking at how do I support line items in Documint, well, this is how you're gonna do it. You're gonna come in, and what I see here is something unique, right? This is the same. So let me scroll out a bit. Okay, this, description, quantity, and unit price. That is the same, and it's never gonna change, okay? But this part is unique because these are the line items that are gonna repeat. So I actually need one box for this, and then I need one box for this. So let's look at how to do that first. So if I come in, I need to first add, I could recognize that's 1, 2, 3, 4. We're gonna go ahead and add 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm gonna go ahead and add a text, and a text, and a text, and a text, right? So this is going to say description, and then this is going to be quantity, and this will be unit price, and this will be amount. I can also, if I come here, if I go to layers, you can actually see the layers. Right now I'm on the text itself. I want the text itself, I want the column. I can actually make this longer, right? If I want more room for the description and less room for the quantity, great, I'm good to go. Now I can take this row, I can even name this row the headers. Right, so now I am just clear that these are the headers. I'm gonna actually go ahead and I'm gonna duplicate that. Woohoo, now I have this. And it's the same, but instead of description, I'm gonna put the description variable. I'm gonna put DESC, and then we're gonna put quantity, QTY. We're gonna do unit price, unit price, and then lastly we're gonna do amount. Okay, but these are line items, so they are going to loop. So in order for something to loop, we have to do something special. So what I'm gonna do here is, because I want this to repeat, this same line to repeat over and over and over and over and over again for every single line item that I have. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come to my layers and I'm gonna say, okay, I want the whole item. I don't want just this column to loop. I want the whole row to loop every single time. Once that's selected, I'm gonna go to edit logic and I'm gonna say repeat loop when the variable, and this variable doesn't exist yet, but it'll create it for me, line items. I'm not doing double squiggly here. Don't know why, you just don't do it. So it says for every time you see line items, loop it, do another one. Okay, here we go, save. So I'm going to, this is gonna be total. I'll do one more. I'm gonna skip this part right here because you understand how to make that. That's just variables and other pieces of information. But we'll just put the amount under here. So now we'll do one more. We'll add something with 3, we can do 2. We can do 2 and we can make this column way longer. Right there, right? And so what this will be is this will be text, And then we're going to reuse one more variable, right? So this is going to be amount, but we're going to push it to the side. And then this is going to be, which we've already used, total. All right, so that's pretty much all we need to do. We have this whole invoice set up. It is beautiful, hopefully it's great, but now we need to go set up Coda. So I'm going to show you now how to take these variables, data, line items. Notice that line items has multiple pieces inside of it. And I'm going to show you how to set this up in Coda with a button to easily transfer all of that over. So let's go. All right, so now I'm in the Coda side of things, and with this looping, it gets a bit more complex. If we have looping line items, right? There may be 5 line items, there may be 2 line items. Anytime you have looping line items, it's going to get a bit more complex. If you don't have looping line items, creating PDFs in Documint from Coda is way easier. You can go see some of my other videos how to do that, but I'm going to show you the more complex way to support these looping line items. When a new Coda document, first we just need to go to packs, and we need to make sure that the document pack is set up. You'll find Documint by Documint LLC. I'm going to add the doc for free. And now I'm going to go ahead and settings, select an account, make sure that my account is connected. If you don't have your account connected, it'll ask you for an API token. It's pretty easy to connect it. But first, let's just set up our structure, right? So we're gonna have invoices, and we're gonna have another table of line items, right? So the line items has a description, a quantity, an amount, and then it also has a total. Okay, description, quantity, amount, and total, and then it's going to be connected to, via a relation column, it's going to be connected to the invoices, right? So each line item will have an invoice. So let's say this is the invoice, this is the client details. Let's say that this is the invoice number. Let's do a due date and a total. Okay. So first of all, I need to connect these. Let's make this the invoice number. Invoice number. And let's say I'm going to do a little formula for this real fast. I'm going to say left pad text is row ID. I'm going to say we want to make it 5 and pad it with a 0. Okay. So now I have an invoice number that is unique for each one. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to keep growing. You can do whatever you want for your invoice numbers, make them a formula or not. Client details. Let's say that this is for Disney, and they are at 1234 Disney Way. And let's say that this is for Apple, and they're at 1234 Cupertino Way, and we're going to send it to finance@apple.com, and we're going to send this to finance@disney.com. We got some good clients, Disney and Apple. So what we're going to do next is have a due date. Let's just change this column type to a date and put in a due date and put in another due date. What we're going to do now is make sure that our line items are lined up. So we'll go ahead and make sure that this relation is related back to invoices. And from here, we are going to then start typing them out. So the description is lots of work. Maybe we did 3 hours of it, and the unit price, I guess, right? It's $100 an hour. So the total is equal to, and we can do this, quantity times unit price. All right, if this feels a bit fast for you, my formulas and my connecting, this isn't meant to be an introductory video to Coda. So go watch some of my other videos if you're like, wait, what was a relation column? How did it connect that? What's going on with these formulas? I break that down in a lot more detail in other places. This is just meant to show you, if you already know how to use Coda, kind of introduction to that. So let's go here a few more times and just make this a currency. Let's go ahead. We can do the same thing here, right? Change column type to a currency. And we're going to connect this to there, right? So that's lots of work. And then we're going to I'm just going to, for time's sake, I'm going to say more work. Okay. Quantity is 5. That goes to 500. And we'll say the service charge, and we'll say that's 1, and that's $355. Okay, we're gonna connect these all to this line item. So what we're gonna do now is just get our last few pieces. Our total for this is going to be line items dot total dot sum, right? So the total for the full invoice that we're sending is 1155. All right, so what we're gonna need to do next is set up something called a payload. I'm gonna show you how to do that in full. So stick with me, we're just one step away from creating these in Documint. All right, so what I have here is my Coda structure, right? This is how I'm actually gonna create invoices and allow my staff to actually come in and, you know, make invoices. But now we need to create the data. Like, how does Documint want the data? We can't just send these whole tables over to Documint. Documint wants the data in a very specific format. So I'm going to show you how to take the data in Coda that we have and change it into a format that Documint can read and create your documents out of. So what you're going to do is you're going to create another table, and that table is going to be called a payload table. Call it whatever you want. I call it a payload. For this, we're going to break our payload up into different sections. If I go back into Documint, I'm going to have one section here for these top level: invoice number, due, client details right here. Right, and then I'm gonna have another section for my line item specifically. So if I go back into my Coda structure, I'm gonna call that the top level. So what are those things at the top? And then what are those things in the line items? I have to construct JSON. If you don't know what JSON is, this video won't cover it all. The Coda school does cover it and shows you what to do there. Or you can look on the internet. But we're gonna go into a notes column. And please follow this very specifically or it will not work. What you're gonna do is first you're gonna make a code block. Yes, please make the code block. Don't skip it. We're gonna make JSON to store all of our information. So now we need, inside of here, there's gonna be key value pairs. We're gonna talk about the data we want to send over. The data specifically needs to match what you have in Documint. So we have invnum, due, client details, and total, okay? Invnum. So inv underscore num, and then one of those thingies, and then the invoice number is going to be a squiggly 1 and a comma. That is the structure you need for every single piece. So I'm gonna go ahead, and I know I need 4 of them. So I'm gonna paste. The last one doesn't really get a comma. And there we go. That's what it's going to look like. But so please make sure you follow this exactly. You have this name in quotes. After the quotes, you have a semicolon, colon. I can't remember what that's called. And then you're going to have these squiggly numbers, but the squiggly numbers increment. So that's 2, 3, 4. And of course, these become the specific names. Due date. This is due. And this is, what is this one? Let's go back. Total. We have one other one, and that last thing that we have at the top level are the line items themselves. Line items. And the line items actually go inside these square brackets. That's an array or a list. Those square brackets means a list, multiple items. And inside that list, we're going to do no quotes. And we're going to say 5, because that's the next number that we're incrementing up to. And we're good to go. Okay, awesome. Yay, I love it. So that's a way to just to see it easily. I like doing that, and then what we're actually going to send over is a different version of that. So I have this one more. I call this formatted. That's where you can see it. It's easy. It's nice. This is the actual JSON to send. Okay. So what I'm going to do is make this a formula. So I'm going to put a formula on this that's going to say formatted JSON. Oops. Formatted. Let's go up to that. Dot regex replace. I'm going to replace just follow this exactly. It's a /n bar /r bar /s. That'll just take basically your code block and flatten it all. So there's no line breaks. There's no anything weird going on. There's no spaces. It's just going to flatten it and make it a bit nicer. So what we're going to do next is make our line items code. So we're almost done. We're going to turn this into a code block. Same thing here, squiggly. And then we're going to say the description. And we're going to put this again, squiggly 1. This is a new block, so we can start over with our squiggly 1. And then we can do that, and we have one more, I believe. The last one doesn't get a comma, and this is a description. This is a quantity, so this will be unit price. And and this will be amount. So this will be 2, this will be 3, and this will be 4. All right, there we go. That looks good. Notice how it's flattening up there. We don't need that last comma. Okay, we're good here. So now we set up this. Our next step is to take this, and instead of squiggly numbers, we want to fill it out with the actual numbers for our invoices. So follow along with that next step with me. All right, so now we just have to fill out this information. So we're gonna take this line item and we're gonna turn it into this format. So let me show you how to do that. We're gonna call this, I'm gonna call this the JSON. And I'm gonna use a Coda formula called format. Again, I cover these in other videos. If you're introductory to Coda, maybe go watch some of those first. But what I'm gonna say here in the JSON is I'm gonna say format. I'm going to then @reference the piece that I want. I want this line items down here. So notice that as I type in @ and I start typing line, it shows up here. I don't want to format the whole row. I want to format just the JSON to send. So now it pulls out this. And then what I'm gonna do there is say, hey, in number 1, I want the description from this row, then the quantity, then the unit price, then the total, okay? So now what you'll see happen is that all of these are formatted correctly. Let's X out of that. Let's zoom in a bit. You'll see here, description, lots of work, quantity 3, unit price $100, amount $300. Now I have each one and notice that it's different. More work, 5, 100, 500. So I've got all these pieces. So now, how do I combine those? We're gonna combine them up in the top level. So we're gonna do one more, and we're gonna call this the JSON. So what I'm gonna say is I want to format this time at top level .JSON to send. All right, so what I'm formatting is this top level, and I'm gonna put the invoice number. I'm gonna put the client details. This is specific. Document will break if you have line breaks. So anytime you have line breaks, you need to replace them. So I'm gonna say regex replace line break with a, and you can replace line breaks with a /n, and those line breaks will get reinterpreted into a line break. So anytime you have line breaks, just follow my instructions, regex replace a line break with a /n, and it will work for you. After line break is due, the due date, the total, and then the line items. So we want the due date, the total, and then we want the line items, but we don't want the line items as they are. We want that actual JSON. So we want the line items.json, but that gives us a list of JSON. We don't want a list of JSON. We want them to be joined by a comma. Let me know if you got questions about that in the comments. Now I've got this big piece of JSON. This is the data of this invoice that is going to send over to Documint. Let's go. Last thing you need to do is we're going to actually send it to Documint and create it. We're going to have a button. That button is going to access packs, Documint, and then it's going to create a PDF. Okay, so what we're going to do is on column options, we're going to select our template ID. Notice how it's pulling everything I have in Documint. It's pulling the example invoice that we just created. That's the one we want. What we're gonna do now is set it to active and a custom payload. We're gonna send what we just created, the JSON, right? So notice how it's highlighting in green. That's what we're grabbing. And lastly, we just need a results column. This is very important, follow this. Create a column. After the column is created, then turn the column into a file, okay? Create PDF. Now we're done. Hopefully, let's press it and see what happens. We're waiting, we're waiting, we're waiting, we're waiting, we're waiting. We should see it here. It popped in. Notice that it's uploading and scanning for malware. But if we did this correctly, we created our looping PDF. All right, so we've clicked the button and now we can see that it actually generated a PDF for us. So you'll see here, we got lots of work, more work, service charge, 1, 3, it all changes. If we go ahead and we add another piece here, so let's say another charge for tax, and maybe it's 8 by 45 bucks, connect that to the first invoice. We can click this again and we can see that update, in real time with that PDF. So we'll let that go for a second. But I'll show you here, and this is where it seemed like a lot. So I want to encourage you, that probably seemed like a lot. Now that you've done it, you never have to worry about it and you never have to touch it again. You can actually clean this up a ton we can actually go ahead and hide all this stuff. So we can take this and take line items, push them here, payload and push it here. We can then just have our invoices. We can even hide this. We can hide that. So let's go see that. It made it more, another charge for tax, it updates. But now we can just have these simple invoices here. You can come into each one. You can give it some details. So this is for Apple. This is for 12345 Cupertino Way. And then the due date is gonna be the 17th. We can just start adding invoices, line items right here, right? So this is 1, 1, 1, 10, 10, 10. We can say blah, and then we can say blah. And from there, you just press click, and you'll have your invoice made. So there's a lot more that you can do, right? It doesn't look as pretty as the one I showed you at the beginning, but that would just be in Documint, adding borders or adding shading or really making it exactly like you want. If you need any help, feel free to look at the description below. I've got some links for you to just get some more resources and help as you go. So hopefully this helped out. Let's look at our invoice and we'll be off. Woohoo, blah, 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 11110. Later, guys.